In 1959, 9 experienced hikers ran barefoot into a deadly blizzard, tearing their way out of their tent from the inside. Their frozen bodies were found scattered across the mountain, some with crushed ribs, others missing eyes, and one missing her tongue. To this day, no one agrees on what killed them, but the truth is far darker than what Russia ever admitted. On January 27th, 10 of the best young hikers from the Ural Polytechnical Institute set out on a difficult expedition. They were led by Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old engineering student and a seasoned trek. The group was mostly students, all certified Grade 2 hikers with ski touring experience, on their way to earning their Grade 3 certification. This was the highest certification available in the Soviet Union at the time, and it was a serious achievement. They were strong, skilled, and prepared for the brutal conditions of the northern Ural Mountains. The trail they chose was a Category 3. The most difficult, their goal was to reach Otorten, a mountain whose name, in the local Mansi language, means "don't go there." It was a fitting, if ominous, name for their journey. On the first day, one member, Yuri Yudin, fell ill with an old knee injury and had to turn back. He said goodbye to his friends, not knowing he would be the only one to survive. The remaining 9 continued on. In their trail log, they playfully called themselves the Dead Mountain Group. They laughed about it. They had no idea how prophetic that joke would become. As the days went on, the group documented their journey in diaries and with cameras. The photos show them smiling, building snow shelters, and navigating the vast, white landscape. They seemed in high spirits, working together seamlessly. Their final camp was set up on February 1st on the slopes of Kolitsa, a mountain whose name translates to Dead Mountain. It was an unusual spot, exposed to the wind, when a more sheltered area in the forest was just a mile away. Why they chose this location is the first of many mysteries. The weather had turned for the worse. A powerful blizzard was moving in, with temperatures dropping to -30 degrees Celsius. In their final diary entries, they wrote about the worsening conditions, but there was no sign of panic or fear. They were professionals, and this was part of the challenge they had signed up for. They ate their dinner, prepared for bed, and settled in for the night. It was the last normal thing they would ever do. When the hikers failed to return by their expected date, a search party was sent out. On February 26, rescuers finally located their abandoned tent on the slope of Dead Mountain. The scene was deeply unsettling. The tent was half buried in snow and had been violently cut open from the inside. It was clear that whatever happened, it happened so quickly that they didn't even have time to use the entrance. All of the group's belongings, their boots, their warm clothing, their food, and their equipment were left behind, neatly arranged as if they were expecting to return. Outside the tent, a series of footprints led down the slope toward the tree line. Investigators were baffled. The first set of prints showed people walking calmly, side by side, not running. But these prints were made by bare feet, socks, and in one case, a single boot. Why would 9 experienced hikers abandon their shelter and warm gear to walk barefoot into a sub-zero blizzard? As the footprints continued down the mountain, their pattern became more chaotic, suggesting the group eventually broke into a panicked run, separating from one another as they fled into the darkness. Both were stripped down to their underwear. Their hands were burned and raw, and the branches of the tree above them were broken up to 15 feet high, suggesting one of them had tried to climb it, perhaps to get a better view or escape from something on the ground. A small, hastily built fire had been made, but it had long since gone out. Nearby, the bodies of Igor, Dyatlov, Zenita Kolmogorova, and Rustem Slobodin were discovered. They were found at different points between the pine tree and the tent in a line, as if they had been trying to crawl back to the safety of their camp. Dyatlov was on his back, his hand clutching a birch branch. Zenita had signs of a struggle, with abrasions on her face. Rustem had a fractured skull, though doctors noted it wasn't a fatal injury. All 5 of them were officially determined to have died of hypothermia. It was a tragic, but seemingly straightforward, conclusion. But the worst was yet to come. It took another 2 months for the snow to melt, enough for the search team to find the remaining 4 hikers. They were discovered on May 4th, buried under 13 feet of snow in a deep ravine, 75 yards from the pine tree. Their injuries were horrific. Nicolas Thibault Brignoles had a crushed skull. Ludmila Dubinina and Semyon Zoliteryov had their ribs shattered, with forces comparable to a high-speed car crash. Yet, mysteriously, their bodies showed no external signs of trauma. There were no bruises, no cuts, no soft tissue damage. It was as if they had been crushed from the inside. And there was one more horrifying detail. Ludmila Dubinina was missing her tongue, her eyes, and part of her lip. The official explanation was that these injuries were caused by natural decomposition in a wet environment, but many found that hard to believe. Adding to the mystery, some of the clothes worn by this second group had tested positive for significant levels of radiation. The official investigation was closed after just a few months, with the cause of death listed as a compelling unknown force. The files were classified and sealed away for decades. This vague and unsatisfying conclusion only fueled speculation. The theories are endless. Hypothermia is a common explanation. It can cause paradoxical undressing, where victims feel hot and remove their clothes, and terminal burrowing, where they try to dig into the snow for shelter. This could explain the state of the first 5 bodies, but it does not explain the horrific internal injuries of the last 4. The radiation, or why they cut their way out of the tent in the first place. Another popular theory involves secret military weapons testing. The area was known for military activity, and the radiation and internal injuries could be consistent with a concussion blast from some kind of explosive. Could the hikers have accidentally stumbled upon a secret test and been eliminated to cover it up? Some locals, the Mansi people, have their own legends. They speak of spirits and powerful ape-like creatures called menk that roam the mountains. They warned the hikers not to go there. Could they have encountered something ancient and hostile? Other theories are even more fringe, from an attack by a bear or wolverine to a rare weather phenomenon called which can create low-frequency waves that induce feelings of panic and dread, to even extraterrestrial involvement. D is strange. Glowing spheres reported in the sky by other witnesses around the same time have led many to wonder if they saw something they were supposed to. The case was briefly reopened in 2019, only to be closed again, with the new official verdict being an avalanche. Investigators proposed that a slab avalanche forced the group from their tent, and in the confusion and darkness, they were unable to find their way back. This theory, however, has been heavily criticized. The slope wasn't steep enough for a major avalanche, and experienced hikers like Dyatlov group would have known better than to camp in such a risky spot. Furthermore, an avalanche doesn't explain the radiation, the missing tongue, or the selective, brutal internal injuries. It feels like another attempt to close the book on a story that refuses to end. Today, the pass is named Dyatlov Pass. In their honor, the site is quiet, blanketed in snow for most of the year. Too quiet. Whatever it was that scared 9 highly trained, rational hikers into a state of blind terror, causing them to abandon everything and flee to their deaths, was never found. It remains out there, silent, hidden in the unforgiving wilderness of the Ural Mountains, an unknown force waiting in the cold. If you want more real horror stories from history, hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss the next mystery.